Off the coast of Florida floats a 990-foot ocean liner, the SS United States. The fastest ship ever built, still holds the transatlantic speed record after 74 years. She carried 4 American presidents. She was designed to outrun Soviet submarines and convert to a troop ship in 48 hours. She never transported a single soldier. But beneath this triumph hid another story. A story of a $70 million taxpayer subsidy justified as national defense. A story of workers poisoned by asbestos for a fireproof ship. A story of corporate greed that broke the promise of public investment for private luxury. This ship was not built for the reasons they told you. In February 2026, they will sink her as an artificial reef. The evidence will disappear beneath the Gulf of Mexico. But the lie began decades earlier, with a man who wanted to build something the world had never seen. William Francis Gibbs was 7 years old when he decided to build the fastest ship in the world. He'd stand at New York Harbor for hours, notebook in hand, sketching every ocean liner that passed. Other kids played baseball. Gibbs drew propellers and hull designs. His parents sent him to Harvard. He lasted 1 semester, too busy drawing ships in his dorm room to attend lectures. They kicked him out. No degree, no credentials, just obsession. But World War I gave him a chance. In 1917, the U.S. government seized a German superliner docked in Manhattan, the Vaterland. They needed it converted to a troop ship, fast. Gibbs and his brother got the contract. He was 27 years old. Gibbs stripped the ship to its steel bones and rebuilt it as the SS Leviathan, one of the largest, fastest troop carriers of the war. The project made his reputation. By 1945, Gibbs and Cox had designed 75% of American ships during World War II. Liberty ships, aircraft carriers. The U.S. Navy trusted him completely. After the war, Gibbs finally saw his opportunity. America had a problem. The British ships, Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, dominated transatlantic passenger service. The nation that just won the war didn't have a flagship to match them. Gibbs pitched the Navy. Give me $70 million and I'll build you the fastest passenger ship ever made. It'll double as a troop ship. 14,000 soldiers, anywhere in the world. Outrun any Soviet submarine. The Navy was interested. United States Lines, the commercial operator, couldn't afford it. The estimated cost, $78 million, over $1 billion today. So Gibbs structured a deal. The government pays $70 million. United States Lines pays $8 million. That's 89.7% taxpayer funding for a commercial luxury liner. The justification? National defense. In case of war, this ship converts to military use in 48 hours. Construction began February 1950 at Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia. Everything was classified. Soviet spies couldn't see the hull design. The press was banned. Gibbs was building a weapon that happened to have first-class dining rooms. His obsession with fireproofing bordered on madness. The Morro Castle burned in 1934, killing 137 people. The Normandy burned in New York Harbor in 1942. Gibbs was haunted. He demanded everything be fireproof. The walls, the ceilings, the furniture. He wanted the piano made of aluminum. Steinway refused. They set a wooden piano on fire to prove flames wouldn't spread. Gibbs relented. That piano and a handful of cutting boards were the only wood on the entire ship. Everything else, metal, glass, or asbestos. Asbestos covered thousands of square feet. Walls, ceilings, pipe insulation, engine rooms. Workers installed it without protective equipment. Crew members would breathe it for 17 years. That decision would kill people decades later. But in 1952, Gibbs called it safety. The superstructure was built almost entirely of aluminum, 180,000 prefabricated pieces. Lighter meant faster. It was the largest aluminum construction in history. The record stood until the World Trade Center in the 1970s. The engines were monstrous. 4 steam turbines, 8 boilers, 242,000 horsepower. The exact top speed? Still classified. June 1952. She was ready. The 3rd of July, 1952. Independence Day Eve. The SS United States departs New York on her maiden voyage. On board, 1,660 passengers. Margaret Truman, the President's daughter. Bob Hope, diplomats, business tycoons. This is how the elite cross the Atlantic. The ship is Art Deco opulence. A ballroom with a 60-foot ceiling, 2 swimming pools, movie theaters, shopping arcade, the finest dining at sea. But the real spectacle is below deck. 8 boilers generating steam at 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 turbines spinning at 5,240 revolutions per minute. The ship vibrates with barely contained power. Commodore Harry Manning stands on the bridge with one mission: break the transatlantic speed record. The Queen Mary set it in 1938. 3 days, 20 hours, 42 minutes. Manning pushes the ship to full speed. She cuts through the Atlantic at over 35 knots. Waves crash over the bow. The paint starts peeling from hydrodynamic pressure. Passengers feel the vibration. This isn't a cruise. This is a race. 3 days, 10 hours, 40 minutes later, Southampton, England. 10 hours faster than the Queen Mary. The return voyage is even quicker. 3 days, 10 hours, 2 minutes westbound. The blue riband is America's. Here's the remarkable part. The ship only used 80% power. Engine crews later revealed she never exceeded 199,000 of her 242,000 horsepower during the record runs. Gibbs had built a ship so overpowered it could break world records without trying. The press went wild. American engineering triumph. The fastest ship afloat. The Queen of the Seas. For the next 17 years, the SS United States dominated the North Atlantic. She made 400 crossings, carried over 1 million passengers. Rita Hayworth sailed on her. Walt Disney, Judy Garland, Cary Grant, Duke Ellington, 3 U.S. presidents. If you were wealthy and crossing the Atlantic in the 1950s, you sailed on the United States. But the blue riband was a publicity stunt, not a business advantage. Passengers didn't actually care about speed. They cared about comfort and price. A 3-day crossing versus 4 days made little practical difference. And something was happening that would make speed completely irrelevant. October 1958, Pan American Airways launches the first transatlantic jet service. Boeing 707, New York to Paris, 8 hours. The SS United States takes 3.5 days. Do the math. In 1957, more people crossed the Atlantic by ship than by plane. By 1965, it's reversed. 95% of transatlantic passengers are flying. The ocean liner business collapses overnight. United States Lines tries everything. They slash prices. They market the romantic experience of ocean travel. They add Caribbean cruises in winter when Atlantic demand is low. Nothing works. The ship burns 1,000 tons of fuel per day at cruising speed. Operating costs are astronomical. Jets are faster and increasingly cheaper. An airline crew is 10 people. The SS United States needs over 1,000. By 1968, every voyage loses money. November 1969. United States Lines makes an announcement. The ship is being temporarily retired for evaluation. It's a lie. The decision is final. The ship is towed to Norfolk, Virginia, and mothballed. Here's what happens next. Crew members report to work the following morning. They find the gangways welded shut. Their belongings are still inside. Uniforms in lockers. Tools on workbenches. Photographs taped to cabin walls. They cannot retrieve anything. United States Lines shuts down operations immediately. No notice, no severance. The crew is simply dismissed after years of service. The ship becomes a time capsule. Dishes on galley shelves, furniture in staterooms, menus on dining tables, everything frozen exactly as it was on the final day. For over a decade, she sits sealed in Norfolk, a 990-foot tomb. Let's talk about what this ship was really built for. The U.S. government paid $70 million, 89.7% of construction costs, because William Francis Gibbs promised them a military asset. A troopship that could deploy 14,000 soldiers anywhere in the world, faster than any submarine. Convertible in 48 hours, the ship operated for 17 years, from 1952 to 1969. It never transported a single soldier. When the Korean War broke out in 1950, while the ship was still under construction, the military drafted other passenger liners for troop duty, not the SS United States. When Vietnam escalated in the 1960s, requiring massive troop deployments, again the military chose not to use her. The military conversion was theoretical, a beautiful fiction to justify federal funding for a luxury liner that United States lines couldn't afford to build. American taxpayers spent nearly $1 billion in today's money to build a luxury cruise ship for wealthy passengers and Hollywood celebrities. William Francis Gibbs got his dream, the fastest ship ever built. United States lines got 17 years of profit from federally subsidized construction. Rich passengers got Art Deco luxury crossing the Atlantic. American taxpayers got a $70 million bill and broken promises. But the financial fraud is only part of the story. For 17 years, crew members worked aboard the SS United States breathing asbestos. Gibbs's fireproofing obsession meant asbestos everywhere. Walls, ceilings, engine room insulation, thousands of square feet of it. Nobody wore respirators. Nobody was warned. Mesothelioma, the cancer caused by asbestos exposure, has a latency period of 20 to 50 years. Symptoms appear decades later. How many crew members got sick? How many died? Nobody knows. No records were kept. No lawsuits filed. Deaths were scattered across decades, attributed to lung cancer, without anyone connecting them to their years on America's flagship. In the 1980s, when the ship was finally stripped of asbestos in Ukraine, workers wore full hazmat suits. The removal cost over $3 million, but by then, thousands of people had already been exposed. The government doesn't want the ship. They try to sell it. Nobody's interested. In 1976, Norwegian Cruise Line tries to buy her. The government refuses, because the ship's design is still classified. It's not declassified until 1977, 8 years after retirement. In 1980, a developer buys the ship, planning to restore it as a cruise liner. The financing collapses. In 1984, facing bankruptcy, they auction everything inside. The time capsule is opened and looted. Collectors buy dishes, furniture, artwork. Museums take samples. The Smithsonian acquires pieces. The rest is sold for scrap or discarded. What remains is a hollow shell. Susan Gibbs is William Francis Gibbs' granddaughter. He died in 1967, 2 years before his masterpiece was retired. He never saw it abandoned. Never knew it would become a rusting hulk in Philadelphia. In 2011, Susan founded the SS United States Conservancy with one mission: save the ship from the scrapyard. For 13 years, she fought. She raised millions from former passengers, maritime enthusiasts, Americans who remembered the ship's glory days. She proposed converting it to a museum, a hotel, an event space. She lobbied Congress, appeared on television, organized preservation campaigns. She failed. In 2024, Penn Warehousing, the company owning Pier 82 inches, Philadelphia, raised docking fees substantially. The Conservancy couldn't afford them. After 32 years docked behind an IKEA store, the ship was evicted. Okaloosa County, Florida, made an offer, $10 million, to sink the ship as an artificial reef. $10 million. That's barely 1% of what it cost to build, even before inflation adjustment. The Conservancy had no choice. No other buyers. No alternative plans. No money left. They accepted. In November 2025, the SS United States was towed from Philadelphia to Mobile, Alabama. Workers are now removing the smokestacks, those iconic 65-foot red, white, and blue funnels. They're installing explosives along the hull. Susan will be there in February, when the ship sinks, watching her grandfather's creation disappear beneath the waves. Okaloosa County calls this an artificial reef project. Environmental groups call it toxic waste dumping. The ship's hull is coated with zinc chromate paint containing hexavalent chromium, the same carcinogen from Aaron Brockovich. Federal regulations don't require removing it before ocean disposal, so it won't be removed. Marine scientists warn that zinc chromate can leach into surrounding waters. Studies of other artificial reef ships show measurable contamination in sediments and bioaccumulation in shellfish. Okaloosa County's environmental assessment acknowledges the zinc chromate, but claims concentrations will disperse rapidly and pose minimal long-term risk. Independent marine biologists dispute this, but the decision is made. Florida paid $10 million. The economic benefits of dive tourism outweigh environmental concerns. The New York City Council passed a resolution asking Congress to preserve the ship as a museum in New York. They didn't offer any money, just a resolution. Florida offered $10 million cash. Money won, it always does. February 2026. The exact date depends on weather and sea conditions. The SS United States will be towed 22 miles off the Florida coast into the Gulf of Mexico. Explosives placed strategically along the hull will detonate in sequence. Engineering estimates suggest the ship will sink in less than 1 hour. Drones will film from multiple angles. Underwater ROVs will broadcast live footage. The sinking will be marketed as a Viking funeral for America's last great ocean liner. Tourists will book dive trips. Okaloosa County will promote it as a world-class underwater attraction. Susan Gibbs will watch from a Coast Guard vessel. She'll make a statement about legacy and remembrance. Flags will be lowered, and then it will be over. The fastest ship in history will rest on the ocean floor, slowly leaching toxins into the Gulf of Mexico for decades. The SS United States still holds the blue ribbon. Technically, in 1990, a speedboat and a ferry both crossed the Atlantic faster, but neither was a passenger liner built for transatlantic service. Maritime historians agree. The SS United States remains the rightful record holder. No passenger ship will ever be built to challenge it. The economics don't exist. The demand is gone. Speed doesn't matter when airplanes are 10 times faster. When the ship sinks in February, the record sinks with it. Unbroken, unchallenged, irrelevant, but more than a speed record disappears. The SS United States represents a specific moment in American history, from 1945 to 1970, when America dominated the world economically, technologically, militarily, when made in America meant the best. That moment is gone. The factories that built her are closed or repurposed. Newport News Shipbuilding builds only military vessels now. No American shipyard constructs passenger liners. The workers who crewed her are dead or elderly. The passengers who sailed on her are in their 80 seconds and 90 seconds. The cultural memory is fading. William Francis Gibbs got his dream ship, but he built it on a lie, a $70 million subsidy obtained by promising military capability that was never delivered. When the promises weren't kept, nobody was held accountable. The crew was abandoned without ceremony, their belongings sealed inside for decades. The workers who built the ship were exposed to asbestos and left to die quietly, and now the ship will be blown apart and dumped into the ocean, while officials call it conservation. This is how America treats its history, its workers, its own mythology. The SS United States was supposed to be a symbol of American greatness, technological superiority, economic strength, cultural confidence. Instead, it became a symbol of American arrogance, waste, abandonment. Built on a lie, subsidized by taxpayers, operated for the wealthy, abandoned without conscience, and finally destroyed as a marketing spectacle for dive tourism. That's America's Flagship, the fastest ship in history that couldn't outrun the truth.